What's up guys, it's Chris Majestic, and today we're looking at a new ultra short throw projector from Vava known as the Vava Chroma. So back in 2019, Vava released their 4K ultra short throw projector, aka Laser TV, which has consistently been the lowest priced 4K laser TV on the market. So with the success of that unit, they decided to develop an updated version with better specs, which is what I have with me today. So this is the Vava Chroma, which recently obliterated its original crowdfunding goal, getting $3 million in funding in just 4 hours with a current total of nearly $5 million. So clearly there's a lot of anticipation for this projector, and it should begin shipping near the end of this year. So after September 17th, the retail price will be $4,700 without a screen, $5,300 bundled with a 100-inch ALR screen, and $5,700 with a 120-inch screen. So we're gonna review the Chroma today, but I wanna preface this with the fact that Vava stressed to me multiple times that this is a pre-production unit, so there are a few things they're still working on. Now Vava did send this out with their new 120-inch screen, but unfortunately I didn't have enough time to set up the screen, so I'll have to show that in another video, but I do have a few other CLR screens that are made for ultra short throw projectors, so this won't be an issue. So in the box, you get a quick start guide, a cleaning cloth, a 5-foot power cord, a smart remote, and the Chroma itself. And when it comes to design, it looks like Vava thankfully went with a black finish and a pretty bold design. It has a dark chrome Vava logo in the front with a black mesh to hide the Harman Kardon speakers, along with dark chrome accents that carry around the left and right sides, which also contains the vents. And if you look near the front side, there are 2 dials there for you to adjust the height to help you get the image aligned on the screen. There's only one button, which is the power button on top, and also on top is the lens along with a pair of eye protection sensors. You get 3 HDMI 2.0 ports with ARC support on HDMI 3, stereo and optical audio outputs, as well as an AV input, and an Ethernet jack in case you don't want to use Wi-Fi. Okay, so what's all the hype about? Well, the Chroma has some pretty good specs. It has a triple laser light source producing up to 2500 ANSI lumens, a 4K native resolution using pixel shifting, HDR10 support covering 106% of Rec 2020, 3D compatibility, built-in app support, MEMC, also known as frame interpolation, a pair of 60-watt Harman Kardon speakers, and a 0.23 throw ratio, allowing it to produce a 100-inch screen from just 7.2 inches away. And Vava is still one of the very few ultra short throw projectors that can produce a screen bigger than 120 inches, allowing it to go up to 150 if you want. So if you watched my original Vava review back in 2019, you might remember me expressing my disdain for Android Aptoid OS. Well, even though I do still despise this OS, streaming apps such as Netflix and YouTube do appear to work, even though you have to use the air mouse function of the remote to navigate in the app, and I wasn't able to get 4K resolution in Netflix. Now, I was able to download Plex and stream 4K movies from Wi-Fi, which I wasn't able to do on the old unit. So even though it does have built-in apps, I still suggest that you buy a separate streaming device like an Nvidia Shield, Apple TV, or Roku for a better experience. So the Chroma comes with a new voice remote. It's not backlit, but it does look nice and feels good in your hand. And you'll notice it has a microphone button, and that's because the projector has built-in support for Amazon Alexa, so you can use your remote to control certain functions, which I honestly haven't really found any good uses for. Now, one feature that I was excited to see was HDMI CEC, which means that you never have to use any remote other than the one that came with your streaming stick if you want. The Chroma powers on and off automatically and allows volume control right over HDMI, so you can use the Vava remote or your streamer remote, which is nice. As far as the menu system, it's pretty similar to the one in the original Vava, so I won't spend too much time here. The only things that I'll mention is that you need to make sure that HDMI mode is set to HDMI 2.0 or else you won't get 4K HDR. Another thing I want to mention is that there are technically 2 projector menus and 2 different buttons on the remote, which can be a bit confusing. One is sort of like a quick menu and the other one has some more advanced settings. So if you can't find the setting you're looking for, hit the other button on the remote and it's probably in that menu. Alright, so now on to image quality. Well, out of the box, the Chroma has a nice and bright image with a lot of contrast and vivid colors in SDR mode. I personally found that it has a bit too much contrast, so I had to make some tweaks to get it to my liking. And what I found interesting was game mode actually had the best image. So here on the left I have standard mode and on the right I have game mode, and as you can see there's a lot more detail in the shadows in game mode and the overall image looks better. So I found myself using standard mode for daytime viewing and game mode for night viewing and changing a few settings. I was able to get a better SDR image by significantly increasing the brightness, reducing the contrast a bit, and bumping the hue to the right to offset some of the red. And the black levels on this projector weren't too bad. As I always say, you can't expect perfect black levels from a bright laser projector, but it was about on par with the others, and thankfully it's good enough not to stand out as a problem. And as far as image brightness, the image in standard mode with full laser brightness looks pretty good at 100 inches. So this clip was taken in my family room around 7 p.m. with moderate sunlight, and as you can see, it's not bad in my room, which has 5 windows. Alright, so what about HDR performance? Well, the HDR image did need a good bit of tweaking to get it to my liking. As with most projectors, HDR has a tendency to dim the overall image, so keep this in mind if you plan on watching HDR during the day. Now, ironically, I had to actually turn the HDR setting off in order to get the best HDR image, which I think might be a minor bug. With HDR turned on, the entire image was oversaturated with red. Now I was able to kind of fix this by decreasing the chroma setting or color setting down to 30, but the image still did have a bit too much contrast. So what I ended up doing was turning off HDR and then going back into the image settings and boosting the chroma setting all the way up to 80. Then I made a slight hue adjustment and got an image that I think looks much better. So here on the left, you'll see what it looks like with HDR turned on with the default settings, and on the right side is with HDR turned off with the color setting boosted up. Now the one thing to keep in mind though is that the picture settings are shared between the SDR and HDR modes, and they're quite different. This means you're gonna have to readjust all of your settings when you're done watching HDR. Now again, this is a pre-production model, so I'm sure this is something that Vava's gonna fix in an update. And I was able to test out 3D for my Team 3D guys out there. 3D looks pretty good on the Chroma, even though it did have a slightly blue tint to it. Even without adjusting any settings, I still enjoyed the few minutes I spent testing it out. Alright, so now on to gaming. So in my opinion, the weakest spot of the original Vava was the really high input lag, which forced gamers to look at other options. Well, I'm proud to report that the Vava Chroma does much better with input lag, with the numbers somewhere in the mid-30s for both 4K and 1080p. This is a significant improvement over the original Vava and should be welcome news for you gamers out there. Alright, so now on to the Harman Kardon speakers. Well, the speakers in the original Vava were among the best speakers in a laser TV, and I'm happy to report that Vava keeps this tradition with great sound. Now for movies, I would still recommend a soundbar or home theater speakers, but the sound from the Chroma was crystal clear with plenty of volume. Now it does lack bass, but you can easily connect a subwoofer to the stereo output if you really don't want to buy a separate system. Alright, so what about projector noise? Well, you might remember in my original review of the older Vava that there was a slight laser whine which I found to be fairly noticeable. Well, thankfully the Chroma doesn't have that issue and it's actually pretty quiet overall. Even during quiet movie scenes, I could barely hear it sitting about 8 or 9 feet away. Alright, so now on to the questions I know a bunch of you guys probably have, which is whether it's worth buying or if it's worth upgrading from the original Vava. Well, if you have the older Vava and you love it, then you'll definitely like this one even more. It looks like Vava addressed most of my concerns from the older unit with the exception of the Aptoid OS. It's still nice and bright, it has a better throw ratio, significantly better color, better HDR, and much better input lag. Now with the retail price of $4,700 without a screen, I do think that the Chroma is priced a bit high. I do understand that tri-chroma laser TVs are generally more expensive, but Vava has made a name for itself by undercutting the competition with good quality products. Overall, I do think it's a good projector, especially if you were able to jump on the discounted price. I want to thank Vava for sending this unit out for review. I look forward to the official release and I'll be happy to do an updated review on the final product. that's gonna pretty much do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, go ahead and make sure you mash that like button for me. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.